Hello, I'm Mira, 19. And the sun was bleeding red into the horizon when I realized my family had left me for dead. I was standing in the middle of a crumbling gas station off a nowhere stretch of the Mojave Desert, clutching $8, three crumpled ones, and five sweaty coins in my shaking hand. The air was thick with dust and the sour tang of gasoline, and the only sound was the wind rattling the rusted sign above me. Last chance fuel. Apt, considering I'd just been handed my last chance at nothing. 10 minutes ago, I'd been crammed in the back of our family's beat-up Dodge pickup, the one with the cracked windshield and the engine that whined like a dying animal. We were halfway to Las Vegas, Mom's grand plan to turn our luck around after Dad lost his mechanic job 6 months back. The cab smelled like stale cigarettes and Trevor's cheap cologne, and I was wedged between a cooler of warm beer and my backpack, trying not to breathe too loud. Mom, Helen, 45, all sharp edges and sharper words, kept barking orders from the front seat. Dad, Ray, 48, a ghost of a man who'd rather nod than fight, drove in silence. Trevor, my 23-year-old brother, sprawled across the passenger seat, scrolling his phone and smirking like he owned the world. The fight started an hour earlier, somewhere between the last gas stop and this one. I'd been dumb enough to mention the $200 I'd spend, money I'd earned slinging hash browns and coffee at a diner back home. $200 on a hardcover book about writing short stories and a pack of decent pens. It wasn't much, but to me, it was everything. A lifeline to the stories I scribbled in the margins of my life. To Helen, it was treason. "You spent what?" she'd screeched, twisting around so fast her bleach blonde ponytail whipped the air. $200 on trash when we're barely scraping by, you selfish little brat. "It was my money," I'd said, voice low, knowing it wouldn't matter. "I earned it." "Your money?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You live under my roof, eat my food, breathe my air. Every dime you make belongs to us. You think you're too good for this family, don't you? With your stupid little dreams?" Trevor chimed in, not even looking up from his phone. "Yeah, Mira, what's next? You gonna write a bestseller and buy us a mansion? Get real." He snickered, the same snicker he'd used when he accidentally spilled soda on my notebook last month, ruining a dozen pages I'd poured my soul into. Ray said nothing, just gripped the wheel tighter, his knuckles white. That was his way. Let Helen rage. Let Trevor mock. Let me take the fall. Always. "I'm not giving you my paycheck anymore," I'd muttered, staring out the window at the endless scrubland. "I'm saving up to move out." That did it. Helen's face went red, then purple. "Move out, you ungrateful leech. You'd be nothing without us. Nothing. You want to waste your life on fairy tales? Fine, let's see how far that gets you." The truck screeched to a stop at the gas station 10 minutes later. "Mira, get out and grab me a water," Helen snapped, her voice cold as steel. "And don't dawdle." I climbed out, legs stiff, and handed Ray my last $10 for gas. "Card's not working," he mumbled, avoiding my eyes. I didn't argue, just took the bill and shuffled into the tiny shack attached to the pump. The clerk, a bored guy with a patchy beard, barely glanced up as I bought a bottle of water for $2 and pocketed the $8 change. I stepped back outside, squinting against the glare, and froze. The truck was gone. Dust still hung in the air where the tires had spun out, a faint cloud drifting toward the highway. My heart kicked hard, then sank. I scanned the lot. Nothing. Just the pump, a dented trash can, and a boarded-up motel across the road. No cell signal out here. I'd checked earlier. My phone was in the truck anyway. Helen had snatched it that morning, saying I didn't deserve it after the fight. Then I saw it, a scrap of paper taped to the pump, flapping in the wind. My name, Mira, in Helen's tight, angry cursive. I ripped it off, hands trembling, and read, "Mira, you want freedom. Here's your freedom. $8 is more than you deserve. Don't call. We're done with you." On the back, Trevor's scrawl, "Good riddance, dreamer. Try not to starve." I stared at the words, my breath hitching. The $8 crumpled in my fist as I read it again, then again, waiting for it to be a joke. But the highway stayed empty. The dust settled. They weren't coming back. "You bastards," I whispered, voice cracking. Then louder, "You bastards." I slammed my fist into the pump, pain exploding up my arm, a thin trickle of blood welling on my knuckles. I didn't care. I kicked the metal base, again and again, until my sneaker split at the toe and my leg ached. A gravelly voice cut through my rage. "Hey kid, you gonna break my pump or what?" I spun around. A trucker, Hank, I'd learn later, stood by a rig parked on the other side of the lot, lighting a cigarette. He was old, maybe 60, with a face like weathered leather and eyes that didn't give a damn. "What's your deal?" he asked, exhaling smoke. "They left me," I said, holding up the note like it was evidence. "My family just drove off." He squinted at me, then shrugged. "Tough break. Better figure it out quick. Sun's going down, and this ain't a place to be stranded." He flicked his cigarette into the dirt and climbed into his cab, engine rumbling to life. "Wait!" I shouted. But he was already pulling away, taillights fading into the dusk. I sank onto the cracked pavement beside the pump, my backpack thudding beside me. Inside, 2 shirts, a pair of jeans, a battered notebook, and a pen. $8 in my pocket, no food, no water. Helen's bottle was still in my hand, unopened. A cruel irony. No phone, no way out. The desert stretched around me, vast and merciless. The gas station was a speck in the middle of nowhere. No town for miles, no bus stop, just a ribbon of highway cutting through sand and scrub. The motel across the road was a skeleton, windows dark, roof caving in. A faded sign 100 yards off read EAT, pointing to a diner that looked one storm away from collapse. That was it. My world shrunk to this. I counted the $8 again. 3 ones, a quarter, 2 dimes, 3 nickels. $8 to survive a place that didn't care if I lived or died. My stomach growled, loud enough to echo in the stillness. I hadn't eaten since a gas station hot dog that morning, and my throat was dry as the dirt under my feet. They'd planned this. Helen's fury wasn't just a tantrum, it was a sentence. She'd been itching to ditch me ever since I started pushing back, refusing to be her ATM. Trevor egged her on. He hated that I had something he didn't, even if it was just a spark of hope. Ray let it happen because that's who he was. A man who'd rather watch his daughter burn than stand up to his wife. The sky darkened, stars punching through the black. A coyote howled somewhere far off, and the wind picked up, stinging my face with grit. I hugged my knees, the note crumpled in my lap, and let the truth sink in. They didn't forget me. They wanted me gone. I could have cried. I wanted to. Tears burned behind my eyes, hot and heavy. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I opened Helen's water bottle, took a single sip, and capped it tight. I'd need it later. Then I pulled out my notebook, flipped to a blank page, and started writing. Not a story, not yet, just words. Jagged and raw, they left me with nothing. $8 and a hole where family should be. I'll make it. I'll make them regret it. The pen shook in my hand, ink smudging where my bloody knuckles brushed the page. I tore the note in half, then quarters, letting the pieces scatter into the wind. They fluttered away like ghosts, disappearing into the dark. I stood up, brushing dust off my jeans, and gripped the $8 tighter. "I don't need you," I said aloud, voice steady despite the tremble in my chest. I never did. The desert didn't answer. But I didn't need it to. I'd survive this, somehow. And one day, they'd see what they threw away. "Hello, I'm Mira, 19. And I woke up on the cold, cracked pavement beside the gas pump, my body stiff and my stomach clawing at itself. The desert night had sunk its teeth in, the air sharp with frost, and my $8, 3 ones, a quarter, 2 dimes, 3 nickels, was still clenched in my fist. I'd slept maybe an hour, curled around my backpack, Helen's unopened water bottle tucked against my chest like a lifeline. The horizon was gray now, dawn creeping in, but the emptiness of this Mojave nowhere hadn't changed. I stood, wincing as my split sneaker rubbed my bruised foot, and counted the money again. $8 to survive. My throat burned, my lips cracked, and hunger gnawed at me like a living thing. Across the road, the diner's faded EAT sign flickered in the dim light. It was my only shot. The diner door creaked as I pushed it open, a bell jangling weakly. Inside smelled like burnt grease and old coffee. A woman, Carla, 50, her face lined and tired, stood behind the counter, wiping it with a rag. She glanced up, eyes narrowing. "You lost, kid?" "Something like that," I said, voice hoarse. I slid $4 across the counter, half my cash. "Cheapest food you've got." She raised an eyebrow, then tossed a stale roll onto a plate. $4, that's it. I nodded, too hungry to care. She poured a glass of water, slid it over without a word. "On the house, you look half dead." I tore into the roll, the dry crumbs sticking to my throat, and sipped the water slow, rationing it. "Thanks," I muttered. Carla leaned on the counter, stranded. "Family ditched me," I said, keeping it short. "Yesterday," she snorted. "Rough. No jobs here, no buses. Trucks come once a day maybe. Good luck." I finished the roll, stomach still rumbling, and pocketed the remaining $4. $4 left, no plan. The diner's windows rattled as three men stumbled in, big, loud, reeking of whiskey. They sprawled into a booth, laughing too hard, their eyes landing on me. "Hey, sweetheart," one slurred, a guy with a patchy beard and a stained jacket. "You for sale out here?" My skin crawled. I gripped my backpack, sliding off the stool. "Leave me alone." They laughed louder. "Ah, don't be shy. How much for a night?" I bolted for the door, heart slamming, but Carla's voice cut through. "Out, you drunks, now!" She waved a broom like a weapon, and they grumbled, staggering out. I ducked behind the gas pump outside, breath fogging in the cold, waiting till their truck roared off. Back inside, Carla shook her head. "Idiots, you okay?" "Yeah," I lied, hands shaking. I sank onto a stool, pulled out my notebook, and started writing. A short, jagged story about a girl lost in the desert, fighting shadows. The pen scratched fast, fear spilling onto the page. It kept me steady. Mid-morning, a familiar rumble shook the lot. Hank, the trucker from yesterday, pulled up in his rig. He climbed out, lit a cigarette, and spotted me. "Still here, huh?" "Yep," I said, holding up my $4. "Not dead yet." He huffed a laugh, smoke curling. "Write me something, something good. $2. I blinked. "Seriously? Don't waste my time." He flicked ash, waiting. I tore a corner from my notebook, scribbled a quick tale about a man driving through the night, chasing ghosts on an empty road. 5 minutes later, I handed it over. He read it, grunted, and tossed me 2 crumpled ones. "Not bad, kid." I stared at the money. $6 now, hope flickering. "You think anyone else'd buy these?" "Maybe," he said, climbing back into his cab. "Don't get eaten out here." He drove off, dust swirling. Carla watched from the door. "You're a weird one," she said, not unkindly. "Keep out of trouble." I nodded, tucking the $6 away. The desert sun climbed higher, heat replacing cold, and I sat by the pump, writing another story. If I could sell more, I might live through this. Might even get out. Night fell again, stars sharp overhead. I curled up by the diner wall, notebook under my head, $6 in my pocket. A howl echoed, coyote, maybe worse. I clutched Helen's bottle, still unopened, and whispered, "Day 1 down. I'm not done yet." A week had scraped by since they left me, and I was still alive, hunched beside the gas pump under a blistering Mojave sun. My $6, 4 ones, a quarter, 2 dimes, 3 nickels, rattled in my pocket, earned from Hank and a couple other truckers who'd tossed me $1 each for my scribbled tales. My backpack sat propped against a rusted oil drum, notebook open on my lap, pen flying across the page. I'd turned the drum into a makeshift stand, a scrap of cardboard taped to it. Stories, $1 each. The words were smudged, but they worked. The diner door creaked open, and Carla poked her head out, squinting at me. "You're still at it, huh?" she said, wiping her hands on her apron. "How much you made?" $19 total, I said, voice rough from thirst. I'd spent some on stale bread and water from her, but the rest, $15 plus my $4, was mine. "Getting there," she snorted. "Crazy kid, watch yourself. Those truckers ain't all friendly." She ducked back inside, leaving me to the heat. I'd sold 5 stories since Hank. One to a grizzled guy hauling cattle, another to a woman with a sunburned face and a tired smile. They liked the dark stuff, tales of lost souls in the desert, shadows that swallowed hope. It was all I had to give. Each dollar felt like a brick in a wall between me and collapse. Midday, a shadow fell over me. 3 truckers, big, loud, boots kicking dust, stopped by my drum. The leader, a guy with a shaved head and a scar across his cheek, smirked. "What's this, little writer girl?" "Stories," I said, keeping my voice steady. $1. He snatched the top page, a tale about a man betrayed by his own blood. "This any good?" "Find out," I said, holding out my hand. He laughed, tossed me $1, and walked off with his buddies, reading aloud in a mocking tone. I pocketed the cash, $16 now, ignoring the sting. By afternoon, I'd hit $19. The sun baked my skin, sweat stinging my eyes. But I kept writing. Then tires crunched gravel. Hank's rig rolled in. He climbed out, cigarette already lit, and nodded at my setup. "Business picking up?" "Sorta," I said, showing him a new story about a trucker outrunning his past. He read it, grunted approval, and handed me $2. $21. "You're a stubborn one," he said, exhaling smoke. "Keep it up, you might get out of this hellhole." He drove off, and I was alone again, until trouble showed up. A pickup roared into the lot, spitting dust. Buck, a hulking guy I'd seen at the diner days ago, stepped out, eyes locked on me. He'd asked for dirty stories, once, and I'd told him no. Now he loomed, fists clenched. "Thought you'd be gone by now," he growled, kicking my drum. It toppled, stories scattering. "Still playing your little game? Back off," I said, scrambling for my pages. He grabbed my notebook, ripping a page free. "Let's see what's so special." I lunged, but he shoved me back, laughing. My shoulder hit the pump, pain flaring. Then a shout. Hank's rig hadn't left yet. He stormed over, wrench in hand. "Drop it, Buck, or I break your damn jaw." Buck sneered, but tossed the notebook down when Hank raised the wrench. "Not worth it," he spat, stalking back to his truck. It peeled out, leaving me shaking. Hank picked up my drum, set it right. "Told you, watch yourself." "Thanks," I muttered, gathering my papers. My hands trembled, but I forced them steady, taping the sign back up. Carla emerged, broom in hand. "Saw that. You're sleeping in my storeroom tonight. Launder the rags for it. Deal." "Deal," I said, grateful. A roof, even a dusty one, beat the open desert. Dusk fell, and I hauled my $21 into the diner's storeroom. A cramped space with a cot and stacks of towels. Carla locked the door behind me, saying, "No freeloaders. Earn it tomorrow." Alone, I counted my cash, $21, and opened my notebook. A new face flashed in my mind. Jade, a woman who'd stopped by yesterday. She'd bought a story for $1, read it, and asked, "How'd you end up here?" I'd told her, family, $8, the whole mess. She'd stared, then said, "I write for a magazine. Get me more of these, and I'll publish you. But you gotta get to Barstow, 50 miles. I'll be there in a week." Barstow, 50 miles. $30 for a ride. Hank had said once. $9 more to go. I wrote late, a story about a girl fighting free of chains. Me, maybe. The cot creaked as I lay down. $21 tucked into my shoe. $9. 1 week. I could do this. 2 months had clawed by, and I stood at the edge of the gas station lot, dust swirling around my split sneakers, $35 clutched in my hand. Enough to buy a ride out of this Mojave hell. My backpack hung heavy, stuffed with clothes, my notebook, and 20 handwritten stories, each a shard of me. Hank's rig idled nearby, engine grumbling. "Barstow, right?" he called, flicking ash from his cigarette. "Hop in, $30. I handed him the cash, 5 ones left, and climbed into the cab. The seat was worn, the air thick with smoke, but it felt like freedom. "Thanks," I said, voice steady. He grunted, "Don't thank me yet. Road's long." The desert blurred past as we rolled out. 50 miles to Barstow, to Jade, to a chance. I'd hit $30 a week ago, selling tales to truckers and a few diner stragglers Carla sent my way. Jade had my first story, left in the dust, published in her tiny magazine for $50. I'd used it to rent a room in Barstow, a damp box above a bar, and bought more paper. Now her readers wanted more, paying $100 a pop. I wrote every night in Carla's storeroom, sleeping on that creaky cot, trading rag washing for shelter. Halfway to Barstow, Hank's CB radio crackled. "Got a call for you, kid," he said, tossing me the handset. "Some woman, sounds pissed." I frowned, pressing it to my ear. "Hello? Mira?" Helen's voice sliced through, sharp and venomous. "You little snake, where are you?" My stomach dropped. "How'd you—" "Ray saw your stupid story in that rag magazine at a gas station," she snapped. "Bragging about us leaving you. You think you're some victim. We're broke, Mira. Vegas cleaned us out. You owe us." "Owe you?" I laughed bitter. "You left me with $8 to die. We taught you a lesson," she shrieked. "Come home. Trevor's sick, needs meds. You've got money now, so pay up." I gripped the handset, knuckles white. "You took my phone, my life, and drove off laughing. I'm done." "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I'll tell everyone you abandoned us, your own blood." The line cut out, static buzzing. Hank glanced over. "Family, huh?" "Yeah," I muttered, tossing the radio back. "Not anymore." Barstow hit us like a slap. Grimy streets, neon flickering over pawn shops. Hank dropped me at Jade's office, a cramped room in a strip mall. She grinned when I walked in, dark hair tied back, holding a check. $200, 2 stories. Readers love you. I took it, hands shaking. "Enough for a start." "More than that," she said, sliding me a card. "Small press in LA. Saw your work. Wants a book. $1,000 up front if you sign." A book. My stories. Bound. Real. I nodded, dizzy. "I'm in." That night, in my rented room, $150 a month, a mattress and a leaky sink, I wrote. The ones who left poured out, every word a knife. Helen's rage, Ray's silence, Trevor's smirks. It was mine, raw, true. Drama found me fast. Buck's pickup screeched up outside my window. At dawn, engine snarling. He banged on the bar's door below, drunk and shouting. "Writer girl, think you're big now. I'll burn your damn stories." I locked my door, heart pounding, and shoved my desk against it. He kicked the bar entrance, glass cracking, till the owner, a burly guy with a bat, chased him off. "Stay gone, asshole," the owner yelled. Buck's truck peeled away, but his threat lingered. I didn't sleep. Instead, I wrote more, fueled by adrenaline. Jade called later. "Book deal's set. Send me the ones who left. It's gold." A week later, I had $1,000 in my account, a real bed, and a lock that worked. Helen's call still echoed, her threat to smear me. Let her try. I'd built this with no one. Sitting on my bed, cash fanned out, I smiled. "They thought I'd break," I whispered. "Now I'm whole." A year had burned away since that gas station ditch, and I stood in a sleek LA conference room, 20 now, my book Desert and Me. A quiet hit on indie shelves. The hardwood floor gleamed under my boots. A far cry from Mojave dust, and $5,000 lined my bank account. Royalties, speaking gigs, a life I'd carved alone. Jade sat beside me, grinning as I signed a stack of copies for a crowd of readers who'd paid to hear me talk. "From $8 to this," she whispered. "You're unstoppable." I smiled, pen steady, took every scrap I had. The room buzzed, people clutching my book, asking about the girl who turned abandonment into art. I told them, the gas station, the $8, the stories that bought my way out. I didn't name Helen, Ray, or Trevor, not yet, but they loomed in every word of the ones who left, the chapter that gutted readers most. Back home, or what used to be, they'd noticed. A week ago, Helen and Trevor had tracked me down, banging on my apartment door at dawn. I'd moved to a clean studio, $800 a month, with a view of the city lights. The knock came hard, insistent, and I opened it to Helen's red face and Trevor's hunched frame, pale and sweating. "Mira," Helen spat, shoving past me. "You think you're hot stuff now? We're broke. Trevor's sick, no insurance. You've got money, give it." Trevor coughed, glaring. "Yeah, you owe us. Family, right?" I crossed my arms. "Family? You left me to rot with $8. Get out." Helen's eyes blazed. "We'll sue you. That book's lies. You shamed us." "Go ahead," I said, tossing her a copy of Desert and Me. "Read page 87. The note's there. $8 is more than you deserve. Sue me with that." She froze, hands shaking, then stormed out, Trevor stumbling after. "This ain't over," she yelled. It wasn't. 3 days later, a cheap lawyer's letter hit my mailbox. Helen suing for defamation, claiming I'd ruined their reputation. I laughed, pulling out my proof. The note, photos of my bloody knuckles that first night, journal entries from the storeroom. Jade hooked me up with a pro bono attorney, and we countersued for emotional distress. The courtroom was a circus. Helen screeched on the stand. "She's a liar." But my evidence shut her down. The note, in her handwriting, projected on a screen. Ray slouched beside her, silent as ever, while Trevor coughed into a tissue, avoiding my eyes. The judge ruled fast. Helen's case tossed, mine won. She owed me $10,000, money she didn't have. Word spread. Their small town turned on them. Neighbors who'd bought my book whispered, "She left her own kid." Friends ditched Trevor when his sickness turned out to be detox from gambling debts, not illness. Ray's old boss refused him work after the story hit local papers. Family abandons daughter, loses everything. Helen's threats backfired. Her name became mud. Buck tried one last swing, too. A month back, he'd slashed my tires outside the bar. Caught on a security cam Jade insisted I install. Cops nabbed him, and he got 6 months. Petty revenge that cost him more than me. Today, at the event, a fan handed me a letter. Ray's shaky scrawl. "I'm sorry, Mira. We're broke. Helen's a mess. Trevor's gone. Come back?" I mailed it back with $8 and 3 ones, 5 coins, and a note. "This is all you gave me. It's all you get." The crowd cheered as I finished my talk, voice steady. "They thought I'd break," I said, "but I built this instead." Jade squeezed my shoulder, and I signed one last book, pen gliding. To the ones who rise. Later, alone in my studio, I looked out at the city, lights blinking, mine among them. Helen's empire of guilt was ash. Ray's silence buried him. Trevor's lies ate him alive. Karma didn't need my help. It found them. I pulled out my notebook, started a new story. Not about them, but me. The desert was behind me. The world was ahead. If this story resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters, and I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.